So this is the spectrum of dispositions and developments in relationship. You have the narcissist on one side, and think of this as a rut or a ditch, two ditches, right? The narcissist on one side, self-obsession, self-destruction on the other side, the kind of Stockholm syndrome mentality. And in the middle of these traits, so these represent extremes, and they become, once you get off the highway of exchange, um, of functional balance, these two elements pull each other into balance. You can become stuck in a rut, meaning you get reared off, and it's usually early in childhood, and then like 9 to 21 years old, let's say, you get stuck in a rut. This becomes a self-feeding cycle, right? So you're like got a car stuck, and you start spinning the tires, and it keeps digging a wheel deeper, and you're just more stuck. This is how these extremes work. So on the narcissist side, it is self-obsession. Because of that obsession and addiction, your perception of other people becomes distorted to the point where other people are means to an end. Other people exist to be your stability and to be your sense of importance. And that's all they serve. Like, that's the only reason they exist. And that is a limited hangout disposition. You can only have so much fulfillment from that disposition of people. And so one person is never enough. You either look for more people or new people to freshen up that unfulfilled dynamic, that limited hangout dynamic, or you turn it dark, meaning, okay, you control them positively, they love you, you feel stable in their attachment to you, and because that is only so satisfying, you start to torture them and 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 try to get even more control. You aim for total dependence, and you trauma bond them as another, means of control and obsession, uh, with the addiction of the thrill of power over another person, ultimately. So, and then the codependent has its own dynamic, right? So this can be a self-feeding cycle in and of itself. This can be a unemerged masculine that is trying to recreate a dependent mother situation in a relationship, which is dysfunctional in and of itself. So, and then, never have a sense of self that can contain the other person and create that arc of chemistry. So, these are the developmental streams. Say 20% of the population probably narcissist, maybe the same as the codependence if this is the true mirror of dysfunction. But you have the highway in the middle. And think of this highway as a highway connecting two towns. And these two towns, like, let's just say one is a industrial town and one is an agricultural town. And they ship car parts on one side and ship eggs coming back on the other side. And they have all this fruitful exchange, and both towns are stronger because of it. This is the synergy of human connection, and that's possible. And that comes from self-interest. Everybody's going to have narcissistic traits in balance with empathic traits. And you want to look out for yourself ultimately, and you want your partner to look out for themselves, and you want them to look after you, and you want to look after them. And self-interest should actually be first. Self-interest, empathic interest. And this is a feeding cycle as far as there is positive synergy here. So the more exchange you have on this pathway, the less likely you are to fall into these extremes. So you may have veering off and imbalances. Like it's just like falling asleep, and you start to drift one way or the other on the road, which can cause problems. And you can correct. So most people will drift a little one or the other and then correct. So this is like the normal evolution process. But people fall off, identify with a dysfunction, spend their life chasing their tail in purgatory, one or the other. So that is the paradox of development, the highway of exchange, and the ditches of dysfunction. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.